The first thing you need to know about betrayal is that it sounds like your wife laughing at 3 in the morning. Not with you, at you. Through paper-thin walls in a house you're still paying for, while you're hunched over a busted transmission in the garage, wondering when your life became a punchline. I'm Adam Porter, and I used to think I knew what rock bottom looked like. Turns out, I was just getting started. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The laugh came again, high and cruel, followed by my 16-year-old daughter, Tessa's voice. "Oh my God, Mom, you're so bad." More giggling. Then Kelly's voice, crystal clear through the heating vent. "I'm serious, honey. Vaughn is built like a thoroughbred. Your father, well, let's just say he's more like a Shetland pony." I dropped my wrench. It clanged against the concrete floor like a gavel. "Mom, stop," Tessa shrieked, but she was laughing too. "That's disgusting." "What? I'm just being honest. Besides, you're practically an adult. You should know that size matters." My hands were shaking as I wiped them on a greasy rag. 22 years of marriage. And this is what it had come to. My wife comparing me to livestock while my daughter filmed it for her TikTok followers. Because of course she was filming. These days, if Tessa wasn't recording it, it wasn't worth doing. I crept closer to the door connecting the garage to the kitchen. Through the crack, I could see Kelly's perfectly manicured nails tapping against her wine glass. She'd had her hair done that afternoon, $200 at that fancy salon downtown, money we didn't have, for a man who wasn't me. "Lacey says I should just leave him," Kelly continued. "She thinks I'm wasting my prime years." Lacey. Of course. Kelly's business partner and my former employee, though she conveniently forgot that last part. I'd fired her 3 years ago for embezzling from my consulting firm. Apparently, she'd been holding a grudge. "But what about Dad's feelings?" Tessa asked, though her tone suggested she was asking for content, not out of genuine concern. Kelly snorted. "Your father stopped having feelings around the same time he stopped having abs. Besides, he's too busy playing with his little tools in the garage to notice what's happening in the real world." The real world. Right. The real world where my wife was screwing her personal trainer while I worked 60-hour weeks to keep us afloat. The real world where my daughter saw me as nothing more than a walking ATM and comic relief. The real world where my best friend had turned my wife against me for revenge. I backed away from the door, my heart hammering against my ribs. In the corner of the garage sat my old punching bag, gathering dust since I'd started working too much to maintain any hobbies. Mike, my old boxing coach, had been after me for months to come back to his gym. "You need an outlet," he'd said. "All that anger's got to go somewhere." I'd laughed it off then. I wasn't angry, I was just tired. Tired of fighting to save a business that was hemorrhaging money. Tired of coming home to a wife who looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. Tired of being the butt of every joke in my own house. But standing there in my garage at 3 in the morning, listening to my family mock me, I realized Mike was wrong. I wasn't angry. I was furious. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Check your email. You deserve to know the truth." A friend with trembling fingers, I opened my email app. There it was, a message with no text, just a link to a private photo album. My stomach clenched as I clicked it. The first image nearly brought me to my knees. Kelly, naked from the waist up, posing in our bedroom mirror. The timestamp showed it was taken last Tuesday, when I'd been at a client meeting across town. I scrolled down, more photos, Kelly and Vaughn at the Riverside Motel. Kelly in lingerie I'd never seen before. Kelly and Vaughn in positions that made my chest tight with rage and humiliation. But the worst part wasn't the photos themselves. It was the group chat thread beneath them. "Kelly, think Adam suspects anything?" "Lacey, please. He's too stupid to notice if you tattooed 'cheater' on your forehead." "Vaughn, guy's a joke anyway. Saw him at the gym last month. Couldn't bench his own body weight." Kelly, speaking of which, attached video. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely tap the play button. When I did, I wished I hadn't. It was me, naked, getting out of the shower, completely unaware I was being filmed. Kelly's voice came from behind the camera. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present the incredible shrinking man." The video had been sent to at least a dozen people. I recognized most of the names. Kelly's book club, her yoga class, even my daughter's best friend's mom. I was going to be sick. But first, I was going to make them pay. The next morning came too soon and not soon enough. I'd spent the remaining dark hours planning, pacing the garage like a caged animal while Kelly slept peacefully upstairs, probably dreaming of her muscle-bound boyfriend. She came down at 7:30, all smiles and fake concern. You're up early, honey. Couldn't sleep? Just thinking, I said, not looking up from my coffee. About what? She poured herself a cup, added her usual 3 sugars. Funny how I still remember details like that about a woman who'd turned me into a laughingstock. Business stuff. The Henderson account is giving me trouble. Kelly's eyes glazed over. She'd stopped pretending to care about my work years ago, around the same time she'd started pretending to have headaches every night. Well, don't let it stress you out too much. Stress causes hair loss, and you're already... She gestured vaguely at my hairline, then caught herself. I mean, you know what I mean. Oh, I knew exactly what she meant. Tessa stumbled into the kitchen, already filming herself. Good morning, TikTok. It's another beautiful day in paradise. She panned the camera across the kitchen, carefully avoiding me. Even in her social media fantasy, I didn't exist. Morning, sweetheart, I said. She grunted without looking up from her phone. Kelly shot me a look that said, "Don't embarrass us," as if my mere presence was an embarrassment. I've got that big event today, Kelly announced. The Morrison wedding reception. I'll be late tonight. How late? I asked. Does it matter? You'll be in the garage anyway. She wasn't wrong, but not for the reasons she thought. After they left, Kelly to her event and Tessa to school, I made a phone call. Mike's gym, this is Mike. It's Adam Porter. Well, I'll be damned. You finally ready to stop feeling sorry for yourself and start hitting something? Something like that. You still open at 5 a.m.? Every day but Sunday. Fair warning, though. I don't coddle grown men who've gone soft. Good. I don't want to be coddled. Mike laughed, a gravelly sound that reminded me of better times. See you tomorrow morning, then. And Adam, bring your anger. We're going to need it. I hung up and opened my laptop. Time for some research. Vaughn Michaels, 28. Personal trainer at Elite Fitness downtown. Social media influencer with delusions of grandeur and a steroid habit he thought nobody knew about. I'd done enough background checks in my consulting days to recognize the signs, the rapid muscle gain, the acne scarring, the mood swings Kelly had mentioned in her texts. More importantly, Vaughn was volunteering as a fitness coach for Tessa's school fundraiser next week. Something about helping kids develop healthy habits. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so infuriating, but Vaughn was small-time, a symptom, not the disease. Lacey Hartwell was the real target. I pulled up her social media profiles, her business registration, her credit report. Amazing what you can find when you know where to look and have legitimate business reasons for looking. Lacey had been busy since I'd fired her. She'd started her own event planning company, poached half my client list, and somehow managed to afford a Tesla and a downtown loft on what should have been a struggling startup's income. Interesting. I spent the afternoon making calls, reaching out to old contacts in the financial sector. By 5 o'clock, I had a clearer picture of Lacey's operation. She was cutting corners, using unlicensed vendors, and billing clients for services she wasn't providing. Nothing criminal, Lacey was too smart for that, but enough to ruin her reputation if the right people found out. My phone rang. Kelly. Hey, honey, I'm going to be really late tonight. This wedding is turning into a nightmare. In the background, I could hear music, loud music, the kind they play at bars, not wedding receptions. What kind of nightmare? I asked. Oh, Bridezilla stuff. Listen, I have to go. Don't wait up. She hung up before I could respond. I pulled up the Morrison wedding announcement in the local paper. The reception was scheduled to end at 9 p.m. It was already past 10. 15 minutes later, I was in my truck, driving toward downtown. The Riverside Motel sat on the wrong side of the tracks, literally. The old freight line ran right behind it. It was the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. Kelly's BMW was parked in the back lot, next to a red Camaro with Vaughn vanity plates. I sat there for 10 minutes, engine running, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. Part of me wanted to kick down the door and catch them in the act. The other part wanted to drive home and pretend I'd never seen anything. Instead, I got out of the truck and walked over to the Camaro. Vaughn had left his windows cracked, probably to air out the protein shake smell that seemed to follow him everywhere. I reached into my toolbox and pulled out my pocket knife. The first tire went down with a satisfying hiss, then the second. By the time I got to the fourth, I was grinning. I pulled out a piece of paper and wrote, "Next time, I'll shred more than your rubber." I was folding the note when I heard footsteps behind me. Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? The motel security guard was older than dirt and moving about as fast, but he had a radio in his hand and was already calling it in. I dropped the note on Vaughn's windshield and ran for the fire escape on the side of the building. My heart was pounding as I climbed the metal stairs 2 at a time, then dropped down into the alley behind the motel. I was almost to my truck when I saw it. A figure with a phone, clearly filming me as I ran. By the time I got home, the damage was done. The River City Gossip blog had already posted the video. Local man's midnight tire slashing spree, jealous husband, or just crazy. The comments were even worse than the headline. Isn't that Adam Porter? His wife's way out of his league anyway. Dude's having a midlife crisis. Somebody get this man some Viagra and a gym membership. I heard his daughter's embarrassed to be seen with him. Can't blame her. Kelly came home an hour later, all fake concern and crocodile tears. Oh, honey, I heard what happened. Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? I'm fine, I said. Are you sure? Because this isn't like you. Maybe you should see someone, a therapist, or... I said I'm fine. She studied my face, looking for cracks in the armor. When she didn't find any, she shrugged. Well, if you change your mind, I'm here for you. We both are. We, as if she and Vaughn were a team now. Thanks, I said. That means a lot. She smiled and headed upstairs, probably to text her boyfriend about her crazy husband's latest breakdown. But I wasn't breaking down. I was just getting started. The gym smelled like sweat, rubber, and redemption. Mike's place hadn't changed since I'd last been there 5 years ago. Same cracked mirrors, same duct-taped heavy bags, same inspirational posters with sayings like, "Pain is weakness, leaving the body." You look like hell, Mike said by way of greeting. He was pushing 60 now, gray-bearded and thick around the middle, but his handshake could still crush walnuts. Feel worse, I admitted. Good. Means you're motivated. Grab some gloves. For the next hour, Mike put me through a workout that would have eliminated me in my 20s. By the time we finished, my shirt was soaked through and my arms felt like overcooked spaghetti. Better? Mike asked. Getting there. Want to talk about it? I told him everything. The affair, the photos, the humiliation. Mike listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or grunting his understanding. So what's your play? He asked when I finished. I'm working on it. Well, work faster. Anger's like milk. It's got an expiration date. Use it or lose it. That afternoon, I put Mike's advice to work. I started with Vaughn. Elite Fitness was the kind of place where people went to be seen working out rather than actually working out. All chrome and mirrors and energy drinks that cost more than my lunch. I found Vaughn in the free weights section, posing for his Instagram followers while pretending to exercise. He was bigger than I'd expected, all artificial bulk and spray tan confidence. Excuse me, I said, approaching with my phone out. Aren't you Vaughn Michaels? His face lit up. Yeah, that's me. You want a selfie or something? Actually, I wanted to ask you about your supplement routine. I've been trying to bulk up, and you're obviously doing something right. Vaughn puffed up like a peacock. Well, it's all about dedication, you know? And the right supplements. I can hook you up with some stuff that'll change your life. Really? What kind of stuff? He glanced around, then leaned closer. The kind that works, if you know what I mean. Not that legal crap they sell at GNC. I kept my expression neutral while my phone recorded every word. Steroids? I prefer to call them performance enhancers. But yeah, basically. I've got a guy who gets me the good stuff. Primo quality, straight from Mexico. Wow, that's really interesting. And you're coaching kids at the high school fundraiser next week? Yeah, trying to give back to the community, you know? Help kids develop healthy habits. The irony was so thick you could have cut it with a knife. That's really admirable, I said. I'm sure the parents would love to know how dedicated you are to fitness. Something in my tone must have tipped him off because his expression changed. Wait, who are you exactly? Adam Porter. I think you know my wife. The color drained from his artificially tanned face. Oh, shit. Yeah, shit. I walked away before he could respond, already composing the email I'd send to the school board. Anonymous, of course, but with enough detail to ensure they'd take it seriously. Vaughn would be out as a volunteer coach by morning, but that was just the appetizer. Kelly's boss, Margaret Duvall, was old school society, the kind of woman who still wore pearls to the grocery store and considered reputation more important than money. She'd built her event planning empire on discretion and class, two qualities that didn't mesh well with employees who filmed private tapes in client venues. I'd done my homework. The Morrison wedding reception Kelly had supposedly been working during her motel rendezvous? It had been held at the Riverside Country Club, one of Margaret's most prestigious accounts. The club had strict policies about employee conduct, and Margaret had built her reputation on maintaining those standards. The photos from Kelly's affair were time-stamped. The Morrison reception had ended at 9 p.m. sharp. I'd confirmed it with the country club's event coordinator. Kelly's motel adventure had started at 9:15. I created a new email account and crafted a message that was professional, concerned, and devastating. Ms. Duval, I feel obligated to bring to your attention some concerning behavior by one of your employees. Kelly Porter was photographed at the Riverside Motel during what should have been work hours on the Morrison wedding reception. I've attached the relevant images and timestamps. As someone who values your company's reputation, I thought you should be aware. A concerned client. I attached 3 photos. Nothing explicit, just Kelly and Vaughn entering and leaving the motel during what should have been work hours. Send. The next morning, Kelly's phone started ringing at 7 a.m. She answered it in the bathroom with the door closed, but I could hear her voice rising in panic. No, Mrs. Duval, I can explain. It's not what it looks like. Please, you have to understand. 20 minutes later, she came downstairs looking like she'd been hit by a truck. Everything okay? I asked innocently. Someone sent photos to Margaret, of me and someone, during work hours. Photos? What kind of photos? Nothing inappropriate, just it looked bad, like I wasn't where I was supposed to be. Where were you supposed to be? She stared at me for a long moment, probably trying to figure out if I was genuinely clueless or playing dumb. The Morrison reception ran late, she said finally. I had to step out for a personal emergency. What kind of emergency? Does it matter? Margaret doesn't believe me. She's reviewing my employment status. Kelly made air quotes, her voice bitter. I'm sure it'll work out, I said. But we both knew it wouldn't. By noon, Margaret had made her decision. Kelly came home in tears, her career in ruins. 20 years, she sobbed to Lacey over the phone. 20 years I've worked for that woman, and she throws me away over some stupid photos. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. That evening, Tessa came home from school in a rage. Dad, what did you do? What do you mean? Someone at school said you got Mr. Michaels fired from the fundraiser committee. They're saying you're trying to ruin Mom's life because you're jealous. I didn't get anyone fired, sweetheart. If Mr. Michaels lost his volunteer position, it's probably because he wasn't qualified for it. That's bullshit, and you know it. Language, Tessa. Whatever. Everyone at school thinks you're pathetic. Mom thinks you're pathetic. I think you're pathetic. She stormed upstairs and slammed her door. A few minutes later, I heard her on the phone with her friends, probably planning another TikTok video about her loser father. I was starting to not care. That night, Kelly tried a different approach. She came to the garage where I was working on my truck, wearing the black negligee she'd bought for Vaughn. Hey, stranger, she said, leaning against the doorframe in what she probably thought was a seductive pose. Hey, I was thinking maybe we should talk. About us. About what's been happening. What's been happening? She moved closer, running her fingers along my arm. We've been drifting apart. I know I haven't been the best wife lately, and you've been under so much stress with work. Have I? Yes, and I think maybe we should try to reconnect. Remember what we used to have? What we used to have. Right. Back when she still pretended to respect me before she started comparing me to livestock and filming me naked without my consent. I remember, I said. She smiled, thinking she was winning. Good, because I love you, Adam. I know I don't always show it, but I do. I love you too, Kelly. Her smile widened. She leaned in for a kiss. I turned back to my truck. Maybe later, I said. I'm really busy with this engine. She stood there for a moment, probably trying to process the rejection. Kelly wasn't used to being turned down. Okay, she said finally. But don't wait too long. A woman has needs. After she left, I pulled out my phone and opened the group chat screenshots I'd saved. Kelly's needs were being met just fine. Thank you very much. But not for much longer. I was done being the victim in my own life. It was time to become something else entirely. The question was, what? Mike's gym became my sanctuary. Every morning at 5 a.m., I'd pound the heavy bag until my knuckles bled through the gloves, imagining Vaughn's face with each impact. The physical pain was nothing compared to the emotional damage Kelly had inflicted, but it helped focus my rage into something useful. You're getting stronger, Mike observed one morning, watching me work combinations on the speed bag. Faster too. What's your endgame here? I'm not sure yet. Bull, you've got that look in your eyes. Same look you had before you knocked out Jimmy Torino in the Golden Gloves. That had been 20 years ago, back when I still believed in fair fights and clean victories, before I learned that the people closest to you were often the ones sharpening the knives for your back. Jimmy fought fair, I said. And your wife doesn't? My wife doesn't fight at all. She just destroys things quietly and expects everyone to thank her for it. Mike nodded slowly. So you're going to destroy her back? I'm going to give her exactly what she's been giving me. Public humiliation, social destruction, and the knowledge that the person she trusted most was playing a long game she never saw coming. Sounds fair to me. You need help? I looked at my old coach, this grizzled man who taught me that sometimes you had to hit back harder than you'd been hit. Actually, yeah, I think I do. The plan came together over the next week. Mike knew everyone in town, bartenders, mechanics, shop owners, the kind of blue-collar network that Kelly's white-collar friends looked down on but couldn't function without. Information flowed through these channels like water, and Mike was offering to open the floodgates. Lacey Hartwell's been sniffing around my bar, Mike told me over coffee, trying to book it for some fancy corporate event. Acts like she's doing me a favor by considering the place. What kind of event? Launch party for her new business venture. Apparently she's expanding beyond event planning into lifestyle consulting, whatever the hell that means. I knew exactly what it meant. Lacey was using her connection to Kelly to build a client base of wealthy, unhappy wives. She'd position herself as the friend who'd help them find themselves, which inevitably meant finding someone new to sleep with while their husbands paid the bills. When's the party? Next Friday. She wants to invite all the right people. Mike made air quotes, his expression disgusted. Told me she'd put my place on the map with the country club crowd. And you said? I told her I'd think about it. But between you and me, I'd rather host a biker rally. At least bikers are honest about being trash. That gave me an idea. Mike, what if I told you there was a way to give Lacey exactly the kind of party she deserves? His eyes lit up with understanding. I'm listening. We spent the next hour planning. By the time we finished, Mike was grinning like a shark. You know what, Adam? I think I'm going to enjoy hosting this party after all. Meanwhile, Kelly's world continued to crumble. Margaret Duval had fired her with cause, which meant no severance package and no letter of recommendation. Word spread quickly through the tight-knit event planning community. Kelly Porter was unreliable, unprofessional, and not to be trusted with high-end clients. She tried to start her own business, but without Margaret's connections and reputation, she couldn't book anything bigger than birthday parties and baby showers. The woman who'd once coordinated million-dollar weddings was reduced to hanging balloons at Chuck E. Cheese. Vaughn had his own problems. The school board had launched an investigation into his background after receiving an anonymous tip about his steroid use. They'd found enough evidence to ban him from all school activities and report him to the State Athletic Commission. His personal training certification was under review, and Elite Fitness had quietly suggested he find employment elsewhere. But the real blow came when his steroid supplier got arrested in a DEA sting operation. Vaughn's name was in the dealer's phone under Big V, not exactly subtle. While he wasn't charged with anything, the local news ran a story about the investigation, and Vaughn's face appeared in the background footage of the gym raid. His Instagram followers started dropping like flies. Turns out people weren't interested in fitness advice from someone who'd been buying illegal drugs and lying about it. Kelly tried to rally support from her social circle, but Margaret Duval's disapproval carried weight in their community. One by one, Kelly's friends started distancing themselves. Lunch invitations dried up. Book club meetings happened without her. Even her yoga instructor started treating her like she had a contagious disease. The only person who stood by her was Lacey, which should have been Kelly's first clue that something was wrong. You need to be strong, Lacey told her during one of their coffee sessions, which I knew about because I'd started following Kelly's location through our shared phone plan. This is just a temporary setback. We'll rebuild your reputation, find you new clients, get you back on top. What Lacey didn't mention was that she'd been actively sabotaging Kelly's attempts to find new work. Every potential client Kelly contacted somehow heard rumors about her reliability issues. Every networking event Kelly attended, someone would bring up the incident with Margaret Duval. Lacey was systematically destroying Kelly's professional life while pretending to support her. It was actually impressive, in a sociopathic sort of way. But I had something special planned for Lacey. The night of her launch party, I arrived at Mike's bar early. The place looked different. Mike had actually cleaned it up for the occasion, hung some decorations, even hired a bartender who knew how to make drinks that didn't come from a bottle. You sure about this? Mike asked as we made final preparations. Absolutely. Lacey wants to be the center of attention. Tonight she gets her wish. The guests started arriving at 7. Kelly came with Lacey, looking nervous and underdressed compared to the country club crowd. Vaughn showed up despite not being invited, probably hoping to network his way into a new job. I watched from the back corner, nursing a beer and waiting for the right moment. Lacey gave a speech about her new venture, talking about empowerment and authenticity and helping women live their truth. The crowd ate it up, especially the wives who were clearly unhappy with their own marriages. And I want to thank my dear friend Kelly Porter, Lacey said, raising her glass. She's been through so much lately, but she's shown incredible strength in the face of adversity. She's proof that women can overcome any obstacle when they support each other. The crowd applauded politely. Kelly beamed, probably thinking this was the beginning of her comeback. That's when I stood up. "Excuse me," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I hate to interrupt, but I think there's something everyone should know about the kind of support Lacey's been providing." All eyes turned to me. Lacey's face went white. "Adam," Kelly hissed, "what are you doing here?" "Supporting my wife, of course. Isn't that what husbands are supposed to do?" I pulled out my phone and connected it to the bar's sound system. Mike had helped me set it up earlier. "Lacey's been talking about truth and authenticity," I continued, "so I thought I'd share some truth of my own." The first recording started playing. Lacey's voice filled the room, crystal clear. "Kelly's so stupid. She actually thinks I'm helping her. Every client she contacts, I make sure they hear about her little motel adventure. She'll never work in this town again." The crowd murmured, confused. Kelly looked like she'd been slapped. The second recording was even better. "The affair was my idea from the start. I introduced her to Vaughn, encouraged her to cheat, even paid for the motel rooms. Adam Porter destroyed my business, so I'm destroying his marriage. Fair's fair." Now the crowd was getting it. Lacey tried to grab my phone, but Mike stepped between us. "Let it play," he said calmly. The third recording was the final shot. "These rich snakes are so easy to manipulate. They're all desperate for someone to tell them they deserve better than their boring husbands. I'll have half their bank accounts before they figure out what's happening." The room erupted. Lacey's potential clients realized they'd been marked as targets. Kelly realized her best friend had been sabotaging her all along. Vaughn realized he'd been a pawn in a game he didn't even know he was playing. "Those recordings are fake!" Lacey screamed, but nobody was listening anymore. The country club wives were leaving in disgust. Kelly was crying. Vaughn was trying to sneak out the back door. But I wasn't done yet. "There's one more thing," I announced. "Lacey's been embezzling money from her clients to fund this whole operation. Bank records, forged invoices, the works. I've already sent copies to the state attorney general's office." That was a lie. I hadn't sent anything to the attorney general. But Lacey didn't know that, and the panic in her eyes was worth the deception. "You bastard," she snarled, lunging at me. I stepped aside easily. All those mornings at Mike's gym had paid off. Lacey stumbled and fell, her designer dress tearing on the rough wooden floor. The few remaining guests pulled out their phones, recording her breakdown for posterity. "Kelly," Lacey pleaded, "you have to believe me. He's lying about everything." But Kelly was already walking away, finally understanding how thoroughly she'd been manipulated. I followed her outside. She was standing by her car, shaking with rage and humiliation. "How long have you known?" she asked without turning around. "About the affair? Months. About Lacey's manipulation? A few weeks. And you just let it happen?" "I let you make your choices, just like you let me make mine." She turned to face me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "So what happens now?" "Now you live with the consequences, just like I've been doing." "Adam, Save it, Kelly. We're way past apologies." I walked back to my truck, leaving her standing alone in the parking lot. Through the bar's windows, I could see Lacey still ranting at the empty room, her dreams of social climbing reduced to rubble. It was a good start, but I wasn't finished yet. The fallout from Lacey's party spread through town like wildfire. By Monday morning, everyone knew about the recordings, the manipulation, and the spectacular public breakdown. Kelly became a figure of sympathy rather than ridicule, the wronged woman who'd been played by her best friend. I almost felt bad about destroying that narrative. Almost. The final phase of my plan required perfect timing. The annual Riverside Summer Festival was this weekend, a 3-day celebration that drew people from all over the county. Local businesses set up booths, bands played on makeshift stages, and the whole town came together to pretend we were still the thriving community we'd been before the factories closed. More importantly, it was where Kelly had planned to make her public comeback. She'd somehow managed to book a small booth to promote her new event planning business, probably trading on the sympathy generated by Lacey's betrayal. She'd been working frantically all week, designing flyers and business cards, practicing her pitch in the mirror. "This is my chance to start over," she told Tessa over breakfast. "Show everyone that I'm not a victim anymore." Tessa, who'd been unusually quiet since the bar incident, just nodded and kept scrolling through her phone. Even she seemed to realize that our family's dirty laundry was too public for social media now. "That's great, Mom," Tessa said without looking up. "I'm sure it'll go really well." Kelly missed the sarcasm entirely. She was too focused on her comeback story to notice that her daughter had stopped filming their interactions. I had a different kind of comeback in mind. Saturday morning, the festival was in full swing. Families wandered between booths selling funnel cakes and handmade crafts. A local country band played covers on the main stage while kids ran around with their faces painted like superheroes. Kelly's booth was tucked away in a corner, decorated with balloons and banners that screamed "Desperate Small-Timer." She'd dressed up for the occasion, new outfit, fresh haircut, the works. She looked good, I had to admit, like a woman who was ready to reclaim her life. Too bad I was about to take it away from her again. I waited until the crowd was at its thickest, right around noon when families were gathering for the mayor's annual speech. Kelly was busy talking to a potential client, gesturing excitedly at her portfolio. That's when I made my move. I'd spent the morning setting up my own display near the main stage, a simple folding table with a laptop, a projector, and a sign that read, "The Truth About Kelly Porter, a Multimedia Presentation." Most people probably thought it was some kind of art installation. They gathered around curiously as I connected my equipment to the festival's PA system. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, my voice carrying across the entire fairgrounds, "I'd like to share a story with you. A story about marriage, betrayal, and the importance of taking responsibility for your actions." Kelly's head snapped up from across the festival grounds. She started pushing through the crowd, panic written across her face. "My name is Adam Porter," I continued, "and I'd like to tell you about my wife." The first slide appeared on the screen I'd set up. Kelly and Vaughn entering the Riverside Motel, timestamp clearly visible. The crowd murmured. Kelly was halfway to the stage now, but the press of people was slowing her down. "This is Kelly Porter," I said, clicking to the next slide. Event planner, wife, mother, and star of her own amateur film series. More photos. Kelly and Vaughn in various compromising positions, faces clearly visible. Nothing pornographic. I wasn't trying to traumatize children, but damaging enough to destroy any sympathy she'd built up. "Kelly's been very busy lately," I continued conversationally. "Between running her business and maintaining her relationship with personal trainer Vaughn Michaels, she's barely had time for her family." Kelly finally broke through the crowd and rushed toward the stage. "Adam, stop this, please." But I was just getting started. Of course, Kelly's always been good at multitasking. For instance, she managed to film her husband naked without his consent and share it with her book club. That takes real organizational skills. The crowd was silent now. Even the country band had stopped playing. I clicked to the next slide, screenshots of the group chat where Kelly had shared my nude video. Kelly also has a talent for making people feel special. Just ask the dozen women she sent these images to. I'm sure they felt very included in Kelly's little joke. "Those were private," Kelly screamed. "You had no right." "Private?" I laughed, and the sound echoed through the festival speakers. "Kelly, you made me a laughingstock in front of the entire town. You filmed me without consent, mocked me to my own daughter, and turned our marriage into entertainment for your friends. But sure, let's talk about privacy." I clicked again. This time, it was audio. Kelly's voice from that night in the kitchen, comparing me to a Shetland pony while Tessa laughed. The crowd was getting uncomfortable now. Some people were leaving, pulling their children away from the spectacle, but most stayed, transfixed by the train wreck unfolding in front of them. "The thing about Kelly," I said, "is that she's always been very concerned with appearances. Image matters to her. Reputation matters. So I thought I'd give her the kind of attention she's always craved." The final slide was a compilation. Every humiliating moment, every cruel comment, every betrayal, set to music like a twisted highlight reel. Kelly was sobbing now, her carefully planned comeback reduced to ashes. "Adam, please, you're destroying me." "No, Kelly, you destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure everyone gets to see it." That's when Vaughn showed up, pushing through the crowd like an angry bull. "Get away from her, you psycho!" He charged toward the stage, probably thinking he was going to play the hero and rescue his damsel in distress. I was ready for him. As Vaughn reached for me, I stepped aside and grabbed the plate of pancakes from the nearby food booth, the DNA breakfast special that had been advertised all morning. "Looking for some protein, Vaughn?" I asked, and shoved the plate directly into his face. Pancakes and syrup exploded everywhere as Vaughn stumbled backward, blinded and humiliated. The crowd erupted in laughter, the kind of genuine, uncontrollable laughter that comes from seeing a bully get exactly what he deserves. Vaughn tried to wipe the syrup from his eyes, slipped on the sticky mess, and went down hard on his artificially enhanced ass. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, "Vaughn Michaels, everyone. Personal trainer, steroid enthusiast, and apparently not great with his balance." The laughter grew louder. People were pulling out phones, recording Vaughn's humiliation for posterity. By tonight, he'd be a viral meme. But I wasn't done yet. You know what the funny thing is? I said, looking directly at Kelly. I actually loved you, despite everything, the cheating, the lies, the humiliation. I was ready to forgive you. All you had to do was stop. Stop lying, stop cheating, stop treating me like garbage. But you couldn't do it, could you? You had to keep pushing, keep taking, keep destroying everything we'd built together. Kelly was on her knees now, her new outfit stained with tears and pancake syrup. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I know you are, I said. You're sorry you got caught. Sorry your plan backfired. Sorry that your victim finally fought back. But you're not sorry for what you did. You're just sorry it didn't work. I looked out at the crowd, hundreds of faces staring back at me, some shocked, some amused, some sympathetic. They wanted a villain, I said, echoing the thought that had been building in my mind for weeks. Someone to blame for their own unhappiness. Someone weak enough to kick around without consequences. Well, congratulations, you got your villain. But here's the thing about villains. We don't lose in the end. We just change the rules of the game. I packed up my equipment while Kelly sobbed and Vaughn tried to scrape pancake batter out of his hair. The crowd was already dispersing, eager to spread the story of what they'd just witnessed. As I walked away from the stage, Mike appeared at my side. Feel better? He asked. I thought about it for a moment. Kelly's reputation was destroyed. Vaughn was a laughingstock. Lacey's business was ruined. My marriage was over, but it had been over for months anyway. Yeah, I said finally. I really do. Good. Because you've got a daughter to think about now. She's going to need her father to be more than just angry. He was right. Tessa had been watching from the edge of the crowd, her phone in her hand but not recording. For the first time in months, she looked at me like I was actually her father instead of just an inconvenience. Dad? She said as I approached. Yeah, sweetheart? That was... wow. I'm sorry you had to see that. Are you? Because that was the most badass thing I've ever seen anyone do. I laughed. The first genuine laugh I'd had in months. Don't put it on TikTok. Are you kidding? I'm deleting my account. I don't want to end up like Mom. We walked toward the parking lot together, leaving Kelly and Vaughn to clean up the mess they'd made. Behind us, the festival continued, but I knew this would be the story people remembered. The story of the man who refused to stay down, the story of the husband who fought back, the story of Adam Porter, who discovered that sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be a victim anymore. They'd wanted a villain, and I'd given them exactly that. But I'd also given them something else, a reminder that every underdog has teeth, and eventually even the gentlest dog will bite. Kelly would rebuild her life eventually. Vaughn would find new clients who didn't know about his steroid habit. Lacey would probably move to another town and start over, but they'd never forget the day they pushed Adam Porter too far, and neither would anyone else.